Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the HZad Education's CELPIP mock tests platform. And in this video, we're going to go to our speaking tests. And you can see we can generate a lot of tests here. I'm going to pick a random test, do some speaking questions, do an answer or two or more, depending on the time, and show you guys how you can do the exact same type of answers, what you need to focus on, and how you can score a high mark using these strategies. So let's go with this question. Question number 2. Describe a time. It's always about description. Describe a time you had to make a difficult decision with limited information. Okay, that's a tough one. Let me think of a real situation. A difficult decision with limited information. Let's say that was choosing between the University of Toronto and Wilfrid Laurier University. Okay, and all of this is usually not needed. It's just saying elaborate. We'll elaborate that. Let's get started.
Start speaking now.
There have been many times in my life when I had to make difficult decisions, and when confronted with the most difficult decision of choosing my university, it came down to choosing between the University of Toronto and Wilfrid Laurier University. There were many factors I had to consider. For example, the distance for both universities was quite different, with U of T being much farther from Wilfrid Laurier. Secondly, the credentials I needed to qualify for University of Toronto were way higher, which caused me to think about my future and possibility of even enrolling in the first place. Finally, the factor that influenced my decision at the end was the costs, which were enormous in the University of Toronto. Hence, at the end, I decided the best path for me personally for my academic goals would have been Wilfrid Laurier University, which is what I enrolled in, and I, to this day, am very proud of my decision. There we go. Okay, so a bunch of things. You mentioned you have to make this answer into 3 points and elaborate them. So what I was doing, and the screen is going to go to another one, don't mind this. What I was doing was making sure I explain the intro, the background, what happened. This was the condition. Throughout, I was giving my emotions, like it was a hard decision. I had to think about it. I had to contemplate. And at the end, I chose this. So giving your feelings throughout is good, not only because it helps in the description, but it also helps you give the adjectives, the feelings, and that helps you with your broad range. Then I was very conscious throughout the answer when I was saying different things, like number 1, distance. The distance problem was there. Elaborated that. Number 2, it was the credentials I needed to get admitted into one of those colleges. Number 3 was the biggest factor, which was the tuition costs, and that's what I saved here, and that is what helped me make my final decision. Before getting towards the end, in my final point, I believe I said finally, which is, again, a connector to show that this is my last point, and towards the end, I said hence. So you want to be conscious about the connectors you're using to describe the flow, and it just builds a very good answer. So guys, that's what I would do for that type of question. Let's look at another question, get some new tests, maybe go here. Let's just jump into it and go on this one. So task number 7, the debate question. Your coworker has a stable and well-paying job, but they are unhappy in their current role. They are thinking about quitting to pursue their passion for photography as a full-time career. One side argues that they should immediately follow their dream, which is photography, while the other contends that they should wait until they have more savings and a clear plan. Debate which piece of advice is more beneficial and explain your reasoning. Okay, that's a tough one. Luckily, I have a friend who is getting into the situation, so I would relate to him or anything familiar to my life. Secondly, I would think of what I would actually say. Actually, I would give a balance to this person, like do photography, but don't quit your job meanwhile. But here you have to pick one extreme point and just defend that. So I'm going to tell him, go for your passion. That is photography, and you're going to be successful. You got to do 3 points in the 90-second question and elaborate each. Have good descriptions. Let's get started.
Start speaking now.
Hey, Bob, I understand you're right now at the crossroads of choosing between your full-time work or your passion, which could make you a billionaire, but it could also crush your stability. I believe fully you should always go for your passion. And in your case, you being an excellent photographer plays right up your alley. That is my first reason why you should be a photographer. You have the talent for it. You have the skill set. I have personally seen the photos and the videos you make. Your editing quality is top-notch, and I don't think anyone can compete with you for the next 10 years. Secondly, photography is a safe bet. It is something that is AI-proof. There's no technology that can replace the human touch that you can bring into your field, which is why I would consider this as one of the safest professions, at least for the next 2 decades. Thirdly, photography is something that gives smiles. It's not a boring job like being an accountant where you're just crunching numbers the whole day. Photography gets you invited into weddings, into birthday parties, and you are constantly meeting people who are in front of you smiling. That environment itself is so positive that you should simply go for it. Overall, don't listen to the detractors. Go for what you believe in and go for your passion. That is photography. There we go. So one thing I'm going to tell you guys is whenever you see me doing that last part at the end, like here I said, overall, go for your passion, that is photography. I am constantly looking at that line where the time is about to finish, and I want to ensure that before it finishes, I say whatever I can to complete my topic, but I'm watching it very closely. I leave a little margin, just like a couple of seconds, to make sure that I get my concluding sentence in. If I see that timeline and I see it running out quickly, I will avoid doing that last sentence altogether. Now, once again, you can see it's something where I'm showing realism, like I know this person, and that helps make it very natural. Like, you are so good in your talent, I've seen your photos and videos, and that just brings out the description in a more natural way. Plus, it gives you that relaxed feeling where you don't have to come up with things because you're just being natural. So always thinking about someone, if you can relate to someone in your natural world, it'll be better. Secondly, having something that you really believe in, like I believe people should chase their passions, that helps you explain this with energy. And you need that energy for your mark for tone. Then again, I think my biggest strength and my biggest weapon is knowing the structure. So I know that you start with the intro, then you have your first point, give it about 20 seconds. Second point, 20 seconds. Third point, 20 seconds. That structure keeps me organized and it keeps me focused on that timeline. Like, in this time, I have to speak this much. Then I have to move to my other point. So I avoid rambling and I also avoid talking too little. Just keeps a good balance. Throughout, you might have noticed the places where I pause on purpose. That's where I am just giving a pause to myself or thinking about the adjective, the fancy word that I can add. So that also is something you want to be conscious about. At the end, I always try to do something like hence or overall to show that, okay, this is my conclusion. I do the same thing at the intro where it's dependent on the topic. In this case, hey, Bob, whoever I said, and then the greeting, then getting into the topic. So making sure you have those elements, intro, conclusion, and you do that on purpose very consciously, then having those structured points in between really helps you out. Now, if you need more help with this, as I said, my biggest weapon is the structure. The best structure is mentioned in our CELPIP speaking videos where you have templates on all types of CELPIP speaking questions. The link for that is in the description. Check it out. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk soon.